would like to introduce you to my, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, I'm guessing Sekio or Sekio or something by Janome, which, when I looked on the back, is a Janome, basically memory craft 8300. You can see right there. I've never seen one of these before, and it seems to be, I'm guessing, my Asian languages aren't very good, but I'm working on finding an app on my phone to translate. But as far as I'm sure, it's Japanese. Could be Korean, but I think it's Japanese. Maybe it's... Anyway, I will figure it out. But that's less important. It works the same. I've got the manual for an 8000. So it's very similar to the 8000. Slightly fewer stitches. However, I was given it by a friend who knew I sort of liked machines, and he says, well, it's giving an error when you turn it on, a motor error. I'm like, okay. I found it has a card in it. It has a standard alphabet card. And most of the feet. It's missing the darning foot, and I forget which one that is, but you know, I've got so many other feet around, I've managed to cope with it. I've had one of these in my collection, so I just put that, because it didn't have any feet at all. It didn't even have the shank, so I had to guess and found out the shank was adjusted for a high shank machine, so it didn't sew properly. So I had to lower the shank, which is just a screw in here like many of the machines. I put a shank I had, and then I found this satin stitch foot, which helped getting good results on the satin stitch. But it was locked up, and what the error was, which is strangely enough in English, said stepper motor error. The only English thing that happens to it. However, what I found out is there is a really neat design in this machine. And the stepper motor that was the guilty party is this one right here, which also does the zigzag. So just behind there you pop that out. So I had to figure out how to take this apart. I didn't have a service manual. I do now. But what's really neat is there's this shaft which goes down the length of the machine to a part here, and it just attaches it. And then that's what runs the embroidery part here. So that's the part that moves it side to side. And then there's another stepper motor actually in the base which moves it this way. Now this is a very small embroidery hoop, and I don't even have the embroidery hoop for it. I've hunted and I haven't found one yet. But I'm not really convinced I'll be able to use the machine for embroidery. It will work. But by that I mean the instructions would all be in Japanese. But I could figure it out because it will follow the same rules. I just have to learn to read Japanese for this. Doesn't matter for the purposes of sewing. But I thought I would introduce you to what's really neat about this machine. One feature which I like, which is this. The cord is retractable. So when you want to carry the machine as it is for sewing, excuse me, it's really neat. So I'm just going to plug this in now. I do like this feature a lot because I'm so used to dangling cords everywhere. It's kind of nice. And I've ordered a foot for it. Foot will only control the speed, but it works just fine using the start-stop button. Here's the end of pattern or reverse, then the needle up and down position. The on and off is there, and then this is the pattern back and forth adjuster to make sure you get perfect patterns. And I have been fiddling with it over time because some of my initial eyelets should have looked like that, but they look like this, so I had to adjust it a bit. And also Mr. Penguin didn't look very penguin-like. I did a bit of monkeying about yesterday and eventually got the penguin to look relatively like a penguin. I'm only sewing on this fabric. I did, however, try lots of other patterns, as you can see. This one looks really nice. But let me introduce you to this machine itself. So I'm not sure if that light is helping much. Okay. The shaft runs from here down here. Now what I found out was that the carriage itself needed cleaning and lubricating. It was stuck. And that was what was causing the stepper motor error. So it was trying to turn all this and it was stuck. So 4 screws on the bottom, very simple. And then the bottom separates from the top. And what makes it quite nice is then it's just a few screws here. I got in there, put some lubrication, got a pair of pliers to start it moving and get the lubrication in there, and then all of a sudden it freed up and away we went. Downside of servicing this bottom is there are 3 cables which go in there, and they tend to pop out of the circuit board because they're very short. So I had to take the side off and then get in there, and it's once you know how to do it, it's not too bad. But very simple to fix that stepper motor problem. I was thrilled. And now I have a working machine. Okay, I just realized there's a big challenge trying to show you this screen on the camera. There, it's working a bit now. But because it's not backlit, it's easy. I can see it fine. But it's really quite challenging to show on the camera, so I'll have to do it this way. What you can see is this light is green. Oops, that light is green. And what that means is the tension up here is set to automatic. So that pink thing is automatic. And if you go this way, you'll notice the light now goes red. And that means it's on manual. So that's probably in embroidery settings, gentle. I think that's the gentle setting it says, which is kind of unusual. It's before the 0, and then you get into the, difficult to do this. So what you see, that I think that's the gentle one according to the setting. And then you can adjust from 0 up to 9. So very interesting setup. But it says in the English manual just to leave it generally on automatic, and thus far I've found it works very well. Then you got your foot pressure. It says basically for most sewing to leave it on 3. So you can just turn it to 3. For lighter sewing you can put it on 2 or 1. Then you've got a list of, I can zoom out, a list of all the patterns. Including some English, which I have tried. And then loads and loads of those. So it's really cool if you can use those. I don't know what they mean, so it doesn't really help me much. But for other people. But for purposes of sewing, it's got your standard straight stitch left, and you can see when it's in the top left corner, that's straight stitch left, and it comes up with a description. Then you've got your patterns up to 7. Is the automatic buttonhole. It tells you which foot to use. Then over here you've got all these instructions. So this bit here is how you select your patterns. What you can see is this one ends at 7. If I press this again, now it gives you the second half of the 14. So that's all you do to adjust. So there's your reinforced stitches, and there's your multi-point zigzag, your blind hem for knits, and then some fat patterns. Down here, if we press 15 to 21, gives you the eyelet. I think that's the bar tack this time. Then you've got your buttonholes, and then you've got your fancy embroidery stitches, so you can do, it shows you how to use them for flower petals to build up layers, so you can actually sew with one color and then sew over with another one, and it builds it up. It's a very clever idea. And because of, see, if you look at 21 there, if you imagine you're sewing from the right to the left, that will always overcast a bit of the stitches on the left, so you can actually build up darker and darker and darker if you do it right. It's really quite clever. Over here, 22 to 53, then you're starting to get into some of your fancy ones. What you can see up there is the stitch itself. Now what's interesting about this is this is where the screen started getting interesting. These are the same screens as for the English, and that one is, the buttons are in a slightly different place because of their shape, but that one tells you how much the pattern's elongated. If I press it again, 2, 3, so 4, 5, and then back to 1 again. And then there's this button here, which is clear, and there's that one which is mirror, and you can see it flips it upside down. And then if I click the one, let's see if I remember this one, I think it's that one, that just gives you more details about it, which doesn't really help me much at all. But that one gives you the normal pattern, so if we, but it adds them together, so it's like the memory. So if I do reverse, then normal, and then if I press that one, you'll see one disappear. So that's the clear button. And so you can do the mirror. And that's how you can get your multiple patterns, and if I add another one, it adds another one. So that's how you sort of use, you can set your sequencing out or clear it back. So once I figured out what the buttons do, can't really go wrong. Over here, this is the most important to us, which is your zigzag width and your stitch length. So you can adjust the density of your stitching that way. If I press it again, it goes away. The middle one doesn't do anything this time. That one just resets the pattern, I think, back to the beginning. Okay, so that puts it back. So there's the clear, it's gone back to the standard setting. Down here, this is the embroidery button. Same as these are the same as in the English. If I go down here to that, you then get all of these, which don't really help me much. However, and you can, there's your small and large. What these are doing is, and I press it again, if I press it 3 times, it takes me to the English. Okay, so this is quite cool here. You've got your English, your numbers. The interesting part down here is it took me a while to figure out what's a space. So to get a space, you do that. Then over here, I don't remember if I've figured out what that one does yet, but it doesn't really matter, because on here, one of these is your, so there's your big and small. See when I press it? So it's how you get big and small letters. There's your sequencing. That's how you sort of lock it in and go to the next one when you press your space. So that's how you go to your next character. And then you can see I'm getting that. So that square means a space. And then if I press that, it gives you information about it, which doesn't really help me much. It just flashes up so you can see the whole sequence. And that's what's going to stitch. And if I go up here, that's your clear button. So that's how I actually created that. I used the big letters and the small, so the J and the R are large, and the other ones are slightly smaller, but I could have done it all large, so it's pretty good. I wasn't sure if I did something wrong, but I'm not sure if it runs out of characters after a bit, because I had to do the S, but by clicking clear and just putting the S in, it allowed me to continue going. So even if you run out of characters, you just you clear it, and then you don't move the sewing at all, and then you just keep going. So you could write a really long sentence just stitching them all out one letter at a time, or as many letters as you want. So it's quite easy to use, very smooth. I'll just go back to standard multi-point. Here, press it twice. So once you get the hang of this, it just works the same as most machines. You just press the utility stitch numbers up there, and away you go. It's pretty easy. If I lower the foot, I've got it set on the slowest speed. There's your up and down. If you're in certain patterns, it automatically locks at the beginning when you press start. So you see it locks. Oops, pulled out the thread. Not good. 1 second, I'll rethread it. Oh yes, this has a threader, which is quite nice. It's work. Probably going to be a little challenging to hold it, but it works really well. It's nice and easy. This one also has the automatic buttonhole drop thing, so you just use it. But I tried it yesterday, and I'm going to one day figure out how anyone gets any success out of these type of buttonholers. I fail every time. It just jams and bunches up and it makes a mess like that. So maybe I need to put tons and tons and tons of stabilizer, which would be awful on a shirt. Although if you use dissolvable, I suppose it might work. I could use, fold this over 20 times or something. Maybe that'll work. No idea. But I'll figure it out one day, and then I might do a video on that. But anyway, here's the... I don't know if I can do this one-handed. Let's try. No, I don't think I can. So anyway, this is how you use it. Just goes into the needle like that. No problems. Then I just wrap the thread around. So 1 second and I'll put the thread in. Okay, so the thread is in. And if I press start now, it'll just start stowing the multi-point zigzag. I've got it set on the slowest. I'm not worried about this thread tail. I could get it out of the way, but that's not important. You can speed it up. Really nice and smooth. Oops. Stop that for a second. Pull this thread out because it's jamming. So you can see it's working fine. So it's very good stitches. Now one thing that's surprising, it is quite surprising that it's heavy, but this front cover is plastic, but the actual machine itself is all metal. Well, quite a lot of it is, so it's a very heavy machine, which is good. So it's nice and solid. But you can see it works fine, so it's a great machine. I'm very pleased. Class 15 bobbin, so it takes the large style bobbin. I only have the zigzag plate, but it's fine for this machine. I did find one online for the straight stitch, but I'm not too bothered. I haven't decided if I'm going to keep this. I do like it a lot, surprisingly, but I have so many machines now. I could give this away like I give most of my machines, but we'll see. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting. I look forward to speaking with you soon. Bye for now.